Imagine a world where we can manipulate the fundamental particles of the universe. A world where we can probe the deepest mysteries of the cosmos. Welcome to the world of particle physics, a realm where the impossible becomes possible, where the unseen becomes seen. In the heartland of America, nestled just outside Chicago, Illinois, lies the town of Batavia. It's a place known for its wild corn, geese, and buffalo. But Batavia is also home to something far more extraordinary. The famous collider known as the Tevatron at Fermilab. The Tevatron is a marvel of human ingenuity, a machine that produces 1,000 GeV, a whole TV of energetic beams of protons and antiprotons. These beams smash together at two collision points, creating an explosion of energy and particles. One point tracks the effects of these collisions, while another measures the energy produced. In 1995, a remarkable discovery was made at the Tevatron. The heavyweight top quark, a particle not seen in the universe since the Big Bang, made its fleeting appearance. Although it didn't last long, decaying into a bottom quark and a W-charged gauge boson, it was enough to leave its signature behind. Finding this elusive top quark was no easy task. Scientists would have had to sift through 10 trillion collision events to find it. But thanks to the work of Lisa Randall, who developed a more precise way to interpret experimental results about weak reactions, this daunting task was reduced to a mere 100,000 reports. The world of particle physics is a frontier of human knowledge, a place where we push the boundaries of what we know about the universe. It's a world that is as exciting as it is mysterious, as intriguing as it is challenging. So, next time you think about the universe, remember the Tevatron and the top quark. Remember that we are capable of extraordinary things when we dare to explore the unknown. So, let us continue to probe the mysteries of the cosmos, to push the boundaries of our knowledge. Because who knows what we might discover next? Perhaps the key to understanding the universe lies hidden in the heart of a particle. Perhaps it lies waiting for us in the vast, unexplored wilderness of particle physics. Only time will tell.
One day, Rascal himself paid Questor and Top Secret a visit, several weeks after the Egyptian escapade, as it had become known, entering their Eden of Paradisea to see it for himself. Not bad, encouraged Rascal. Great, actually. Perhaps I shall obtain one of these retreats someday, maybe even soon, for a catastrophic disaster looms in Switzerland. They did not need to ask about that which he was about to tell them when he was ready to. Good to see that you still walk the earth, Rascal. Thanks for your service to me in Alexandria. Our pleasure. I was nearly a goner. Frederick gave his only vial to you, sir, rather than saving it for himself should he die again. Duly noted. And now Frederick is a 3-star NIA general in charge of the new forming Middle East quagmire, although he may not really consider that a promotion, haha. I really needed to delegate some work too. And the Queen of Nubia? Well, she helped us, so we must respect her privacy. The world would build a road to her door if they knew she could reverse death itself. Agreed. However, it only works on the nearly or the newly dead, not on the really, really dead. I thought so. Yes, so Elvis has truly left the building. Good one, Sir General, plus Napoleon will never reign again. Thankfully. But there will be new and wishful dictators. True. Now, Questor, you grew up in Illinois? Just outside of Chicago. Ever been to the town of Batavia? Yes, in 1972. I took a ride on my motorcycle to see the famous prairies, and then continued on to see the newly built collider called the Tevatron at Fermilab. And what did you see? I saw wild corn, geese, and even buffalo roaming at the site. Yes, it is a flatland wilderness of much wildlife. The perfect view of its outlying areas serves as a fine protection from any nefarious planers. True, and it produces 1,000 GeV, a whole TV of energetic beams of protons and antiprotons that smash together at two collision points, one that tracks the effects and one that measures the energy. And in 1995, they found the heavyweight top quark, probably its first appearance in the universe since the Big Bang, although it didn't last very long. It decayed into a bottom quark and a W-charged gauge boson that communicates the weak force, which then of course soon decayed into leptons or quarks, but all that was its signature. Yes, and it was formerly hard to find. They would have had to sift through 10 trillion collision events to find it, but for Lisa Randall, who developed a more precise way to interpret the experimental results about weak reactions. Then they only had to sift through 100,000 reports or so. I have a feeling that we will be talking to her.
You may. Now she is at the Conseil Européen pour la Recherche Nucléaire, as it was first called. CERN. Now they call it Organisation Européenne pour la Recherche Nucléaire. URN. No, they still call it CERN, although they might have called it CORN. The World Wide Web was invented there too. Perhaps Al Gore worked there. Ha, not exactly. Anyway, Lisa has noted a new anomaly coming from somewhere outside CERN. They solved 2 of these anomalies previously on their own back at LEP, the Large Electron-Positron Collider that churns out Z bosons like a cheesecake factory. Instead of taking Z's, they needed to know the energy at which positrons and electrons collided so that they could measure the boson, so they could then go on to validate much of the standard model. Yes, they had to determine the precise value of the Z boson's mass. However, the energy seemed to rise and fall slightly when they measured it at particular times. Weather? Rainfall? Close, it turned out to be the effects of the tides in Lake Geneva. This in turn altered the nearby terrain, which slightly altered the distance over which the electrons and positrons traveled inside the collider. Indeed, they have incredible precision. The second case was a slight misalignment of the electrons and positrons, indicating that the magnetic fields of the collider had some variations when a train went by. You got it. In particular, it was the TGV, the express train that travels between Geneva and Paris. One day there was a strike, and so the trains did not run. I have a feeling we may be riding on that train soon. Yes, if you accept the mission. Lisa is now at the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider, isn't she? Where the precision is astronomical? Yes, it has 7 times more energy than the TV, and it's due to totally restart in October. But they did run some tests on it already. Lisa detected an inexplicable anomaly before it broke down for some other reason. Some kind of machine in the area, not just automobiles? Yes, a larger machine than a truck is suspected. CERN sits in a vast mountainous region, the opposite of the plains surrounding Fermilab in Batavia. We found a reference to a terror plot at LHC in the materials that we secured near Alexandria. It wasn't as obvious as it sounds. We had to break codes. Fooling with the LHC could destroy most of Europe. Indeed, and so we have to investigate. I have some satellite imagery indicating some metals in the area, some of them just deposits, of course. We'll go, said Top Secret. I am sending you both to Chamonix, a remarkable valley that runs between mountains covered with glaciers that used to descend almost to the roads, but that was before global warming arrived. You will be at the foot of Mount Blanc, the highest mountain in Europe. Other agents will check other areas, even the CIA, for this is a joint mission. However, trust no one. Your area is the one we suspect.
So we just walk right in? Pretty much, for CERN's main entrance is but a few feet away from the French border. They hardly ever bother with the scientists who cross it twice daily. Great security, huh? So, we need to keep this quiet, lest the terrorists get alarmed and move their machinery? Yes, as per usual. We would only flood the region if nothing else works. But this could cause them to accelerate their plan, which might still work to some disastrous degree. We'll get ready tonight. You and Top Secret will pose as married scientists who also like to get out and ski the Jura mountain slopes, as do many of the tan scientists there, as well as snowboarding and hiking. We are already tan and have learned how to survive in the wild. Plus, we are married and speak French, replied Top Secret. Huh? Oh, you're married. Well, the secret is out. Anyway, exactly. And so as such you two shall wander around much further and farther to investigate the concerns. As you are both from ToeQuest, you can talk the talk of science when need be. Lisa will be in touch with you, such as and especially if and when the anomaly returns, as this may be when our adversaries are testing their equipment. This is a big one, so I have informed the president. And the terrorists will look like what? They will look like regular people, not like the Taliban or anything like that. They may be posing as fake scientists as well, some of them actually having that knowledge, many just dumb lookouts perhaps. We're ready already actually, we traveled light. The sooner you acclimate yourselves to Switzerland, the better. And people thought that black holes produced by the LHC would destroy the world. Wrong as we know, but the ethics of some people have fallen into a bottomless pit, never to be retrieved. You're a good man, rascal, to protect the light of day. I try.
Faustino and Passiona enjoyed Paris, and then the scenic train ride, while wondering where their quarry might be hidden among the rocks. Pasiona began. Since the LHC is quiet now, the Terra machinery may be as well, but for some more integration testing in both. The terrorists are not ready. No, they aren't, for they had their chance last year when the LHC went online for a while. And then the LHC failed for lack of a 10-cent part. But for that, this might have all been a wasteland already, but I still feel that our enemy must have much work yet to do. So, the terrorists wouldn't just set up shop in a house or a building, would they? No, for the emanations would be noticed or disrupt someone's cable TV service. Plus there are business inspections, tax appraisals and such. So they may be up in the mountains, which is a really vast area, but they would still need an electric source, either from generators or from a power line. How would they be getting these machine parts to this remote location? That is the question. Piecemeal somehow, plus they need food.
Ostino and Pasiona got off the train. Lisa Randall was waiting for them at the station and drove them across the border and into CERN with no fuss whatsoever. The anomaly is a definite problem, stated Lisa. It has an unnatural source, as we are quite familiar with the natural ones, and it was observed twice, so it was not a fluke. We'll look around, answered Pasiona. We'll find it if it's in our area, which is, of course, quite extensive, but we are not alone in this endeavor. Lisa perked up. I can narrow that down. They would need a direct line of sight to the LHC. Ostino looked out the panoramic window. Entire mountain ranges came into view. So whatever we can see from here is where they might be. Pasiona gleamed, but the closer the better for what they have to build within their constraints. I'd say so, Lisa confirmed. Well, Ostino said, we're off to find the needle that could burst the bubble of the Ring of Hadrons. Good luck, answered Lisa, for there is a large sub-function test coming up within a month. Ostino, Questa, and Pasiona, top secret, soon got into the swing of environs of Mount Blanc and its events, improving their skiing talents, and then hiking some trails at random, some at mid-mountain and some towards the base, although not really expecting to chance upon something so luckily and immediately. They ticked off a vein of iron ore as being no longer suspected and tracked along some power lines, but the spurs were endless and very hard to follow. As expected, nothing of interest appeared for the first 2 weeks. In between excursions, the tropical couple feasted at the restaurant on top of the mountain, speaking in both French and English with the patrons. Now and then they recognized a DIA, NIA or CIA operative, but said nothing, for they didn't exist. If anyone was watching them, they would have not noted anything unusual in their demeanor or in their conversations, only that they were serious scientists, sometimes overhearing statements like this. When the universe was born, it was smaller than an electron, which is a quantum object that can exist simultaneously in many states. So the universe must also be a quantum object and exist in many states. Or, for a universe to generate itself, it would have to exist before it existed. Even I wonder what life an electron would have. A very electrifying life charged with zing. There were many trails to check out, both regular and expert, which they could now accomplish. So, just for adventure and of some insight, each time they had a choice, they took the more difficult path. While enjoying the dip of a bowl, as skiers called it, they spotted a trail off to the right that had a closed sign on it. While this was not unusual, they quickly turned their skis sideways, the edges digging in and slowing them to a stop, within a spray of snowy ice crystals flying and glittering in the sunlight.
What if the very fabric of our universe was not as we know it? What if it bore an anomaly that defied our understanding of physics? It's a question that haunted Ostino and Pasiona as they disembarked from their train, their eyes meeting the gaze of Lisa Randall, who stood ready to escort them into the heart of CERN. An anomaly, certainly a problem, Lisa professed, her voice echoing their shared concerns. It's unnatural and it's appeared twice. It's no fluke. She drove them across the border into the very belly of the beast, a realm where the laws of physics danced and swirled in ways that might have seemed fantastical to the uninitiated. We'll find it, Pasiona declared, her voice filled with determination. We have a vast area to cover, but we're not alone in this. Lisa, ever the optimist, chimed in. They would need a direct line of sight to the LHC. Ostino, peering out of the panoramic window, took in the breathtaking view of the mountain ranges. So, anything within our sight from here could be the source. Passiona's eyes sparkled with excitement. And the closer the better. Lisa nodded. I'd say so. Ostino chimed in with a bit of humor. Well, we're off to find the needle that could burst the bubble of the Ring of Hadrons. Lisa wished them luck, a hint of worry in her voice. There's a large sub-function test coming up within a month. Ostino and Passiona threw themselves into the rhythm of life around Mount Blanc, improving their skiing skills, hiking random trails, all the while scanning their surroundings for anything out of the ordinary. They brushed off the occasional DIA, NIA, or CIA operative, keeping their conversations strictly scientific and often philosophical. When the universe was born, it was smaller than an electron, they'd say. So the universe must also be a quantum object and exist in many states. Or they'd ponder, for a universe to generate itself, it would have to exist before it existed. Their discussions would even take whimsical turns. I wonder what life an electron would have, to which the reply would be, a very electrifying life charged with zing. The pair ventured down many trails, choosing the more difficult path each time, seeking not just adventure, but insight. Then, one day, they spotted a trail with a closed sign. Not unusual, but something made them stop, their skis spraying a shower of ice crystals into the air. They exchanged glances. Was this the anomaly they'd been searching for? Or was it just another dead end? The truth, it seems, will have to wait until next time.
Passiona noted after some time. He didn't even remind us that this section was closed. He seemed to be quite an odd fellow. Indeed, even odder than it is to be English. Yes, overdoing those chaps and more that you already know. There is something else nagging at the back of my mind. The smoking? Yes, but I suppose anyone might do that. Something more. The way he smoked? Yes, it looked awkward. I've got it. When we first saw him, he lit and held the cigarette differently, as in the German-Russian style, and then when we approached, he switched it to the Western style. Good eye. He is not an Englishman, but a white Russian, as Rascal once told me about when his team raided a Soviet charm school in his younger days. They were training spies in the ways of Americana. So, why is he here now but not earlier? Perhaps there is a delivery coming. They sat for an uneventful while of over 3 hours. No one entered the closed area, although a few paused at a picnic table near to it, and then skied on. Then there was no one. What do you think? We'll check it again tomorrow. Some of the ski packs looked bulkier today. Yes, but the non-Englishman probably waved them on and away, because we landed on his doorstep. Yes, but we could be making a lot of ado out of nothing. Maybe he is on our side, so to speak, the new KGB or something. Could be, but let's send out a readiness alert, just in case. The deliveries will probably try to happen again tomorrow, if indeed that's what they are. The loving couple slept and loved the night away as if there were no tomorrow. The happenings are confidential. The next day they took up a spot with a better view and raised their binoculars. A different man was there, sitting in a folding chair. It says Ski Patrol on his jacket. Yet the jacket is not quite his size. He must have found it somewhere. Do they think we are stupid or something? What an insult to the NIA. I might have to report this post. 2 hours later, a skier with a bulky pack swooshed into the closed area and onto the animal trail about 50 feet downslope from the folding chairman. They put someone else on duty, but neglected to alter the motif. Yes, and they could have just as well had no one looking out, and so then we would have been none the wiser. True, someone is becoming paranoid. By posting a lookout, they have only managed to give away their position. Yet the overall plan is ingenious. Easy access in and out, the cover of the public ski area, the closed area, a power line spur connection wired perhaps. I can see CERN in the distance. Would you care to ski in the moonlight on the brightly lit snow? Yes, tonight. Call back up and raise the alert for Section 7 to have their motors running. And I'll call Rascal. All because of a litterbug. Luck happens. We would have found it eventually. Before or after Armageddon.
Midnight arrived and passed. The apparently undisciplined terrorists would be drunk or asleep by now. except for some watchmen grown bored by nothing much ever happening but a moose wandering by. Ostino and Passiona wore white, the better to blend in with the snow lit by the nearly full moon. They skied soft but sure, entering the closed area and then the side trail, their backup slightly behind them by a few minutes. It was much darker in there, in places due to the tall fir trees, so they flipped down their night goggles. The trail was long and winding, indeed coming within a few feet of the edge, another fine deterrent to those who might wander this way unawares. They had skied perhaps 3 miles. The path was rough and tortuous. It was nearly 1 a.m. I really hope there's something in here. There is. These tracks ahead of us are fresh, plus some were made by a snowmobile, one way of getting back up and out. They stopped and looked. What's that ahead? It's not ahead, it's a power station. The brickwork looks new. The guard is asleep outside. They've run a cable along the ground to that electric tower way over yonder. Jump over it if we end up going out that way in a while. Yes, for we don't have a snowmobile. There is always a back way out for an emergency escape. Go downhill if there is a choice. Let's make the call now and then take that guard out. Yes, and if anything happens to us, Section 7 won't get our next call and will then come in anyway. If we're fine, we'll bring them in all the sooner. Passiona loaded a dart. It hit the guard in the neck, he toppling over ever so gently. Then his whiskey bottle fell onto a rock and shattered. Some men soon began pouring out of the power station, stumbling a bit, some with guns. Our dear couple made the confirmation call and were already heading down a sloping trail, this being the terrorists' back door and way out. They stopped after a bit, not wishing to become targets by their movement through an open bowl just beyond and below. They may not shoot, as this could give their position away, as they may not know that we already know. Yes, if they're smart, although these pot-shot sounds might not be so loud once they are heard way down in the valley. But they must now suspect some listeners about. However, some shots rang out, a few landing nearby. They're not smart. Yes, but the shots are random. They don't know where we are. We can't stay here forever. I hear a snowmobile engine starting up. We have auto GPS. Section 7 can tell friend from foe. Where are they? Hark! I hear the whispering rotors. Stay down.
Choppers were coming up the slope, the cannons blasting the area about the power station. Troop ships followed, Section 7 rappelling down to the ground a short distance away from the power station. A snowmobile exploded but 200 feet away from Ostino and Passiona. Way off in the distance, they could see skiers wearing rifles passing by at the point where the traveled trail had met the cliffs. I believe I saw Rascal in that first chopper. The guy loves to be close to the action. And so do we to each other. Kiss me. The US president called his counterpart in Switzerland, waking him up. After a brief conversation, it became clear to both sides that there was no need to look into the incident any further, for indeed, it never happened. A week later, the LHC subfunction test began. There was no anomaly. Lisa smiled to herself. Precision had won the day. In a few months, they could begin the search for the Higgs particle. The discussion of the LHC mission accomplished was held in the ultra-secure general's bunker. "You're on stage, guys," Rascal encouraged Ostino. "I was surprised to see you in the lead chopper, General. We don't need for you to die again so soon." Well, our lead pilot had the flu, and I had a lot of training as a warrant officer years ago and thought I'd fill in. The downdrafts of the mountains are always a problem, as well as the thin air that strains the rotors. My leaden foot was needed. Your approach was excellent, Rascal, as was the cannon fire upon the station and the destruction of the oncoming snowmobile. You even purposely sent a mini blizzard into the eyes of the other terrorists streaming out. Thanks, but we all worked together. Your skiing backups laid down some impressive fire, so my chopper was not in any immediate danger. Then the full ski force came in to seal that exit and the fates of many evildoers. And of course, there was your astute identification of the location of the terrorists and their hideout.
Passiona asked of Rascal, had the terrorists succeeded, would a large region have been radiated beyond repair? Yes, but it would much worse that you are suggesting. All of Europe? No, larger. My God, what? There are some things that I should never tell. But by saying so you did. Yes indeed, for you all should know. Rascal asked them to lean in, to hear a whisper, more so for the drama than anything else, and to forever remember it. They approached the grand old man, being almost eye to eye. Rascal stating softly, Nothing less than the entire planet would have been rendered uninhabitable forever. No one spoke for a while. Perhaps the Mayan calendar was off a few years, Rascal added. Did the LHC really fail on its own because of some magnet? No, we shut it down as a precaution. Suppose that the terrorists' attack had begun. Lisa was going to turn the LHC beams toward the incoming signals if necessary to avert a total disaster. It would have saved the day but would have blasted a large portion of Mount Blanc away. Wow, it will be hard to beat this story, at least for the scope of its possible bad ending. I have other stories that are not so vast in an ugly conclusion but have even more varied and interesting aspects. From your early days and from your later days of field command. Indeed, and soon we shall sit down, pour some wine, light a few cigars and play some exciting music at a low volume while I tell you all about them. I was called Rascal back then. Such is the full story of the charm school and the attempted replacement of the Soviet leader. Yes, for those are intertwined and more, such as other Iranian mishaps and a stolen nuclear submarine. Come prepared to relax and listen for quite a while. I've been dying to tell someone. It will be like hearing a book that has never been written, for it never happened. Yes, consider it fiction.